Curious about where communist symbols like the hammer and sickle are strictly outlawed? Across the globe, several countries have taken a hard stance against these controversial emblems due to their association with oppressive regimes and painful histories. From Eastern Europe to Southeast Asia, nations have implemented laws to ban the display of these symbols in public spaces, with violators facing fines or imprisonment. In this eye-opening list, discover 10 countries where communist symbols are not just frowned upon but legally prohibited, and learn how these bans reflect each country's journey to preserve freedom and democracy. Number 10. Ukraine. In 2015, Ukraine passed a law known as the Decommunization Law that banned all communist symbols, including the hammer and sickle, Soviet flags, and related emblems. This law is part of Ukraine's effort to distance itself from its Soviet past, especially after its tensions with Russia escalated following the annexation of Crimea in 2014. The ban also includes renaming streets and removing monuments associated with communism or Soviet-era figures. Since the law's implementation, more than 900 streets and 50 towns have been renamed, and over 1,300 monuments have been removed across the country. While some argue the ban helps Ukraine reclaim its national identity, others, particularly in the eastern regions, feel it erases parts of their historical heritage. Violating the ban can lead to fines or imprisonment. Despite the controversy, the move symbolizes Ukraine's desire to align more closely with Western democratic values, while rejecting symbols that remind the country of decades of Soviet repression. Number 9. Poland. Poland introduced its law banning communist symbols in 2009, equating them with fascist symbols, which had already been outlawed. The law covers the hammer and sickle, the red star, and any materials that promote communist ideology. Since Poland was under Soviet influence after World War II until 1989, many Poles associate these symbols with oppression, political persecution, and the loss of national sovereignty. The country went through extensive efforts to remove communist symbols from public spaces, including renaming streets and tearing down Soviet monuments. In recent years, Poland has accelerated this process, removing over 230 monuments related to the Soviet regime by 2021. The law sparked debate within Poland, with critics arguing that it infringes on free speech, while supporters believe it's necessary to protect the country from any possible resurgence of totalitarianism. Violating the ban can lead to up to 2 years in prison, showing Poland's firm stance against glorifying its communist past. Number 8. Hungary. Hungary banned the display of communist symbols such as the hammer and sickle, red star, and Soviet emblems in 1993 as part of its post-communist transition. For Hungarians, these symbols are a painful reminder of Soviet rule, which lasted from 1949 to 1989. The government took significant steps to remove them from public spaces, including renaming streets and squares and removing statues. A notable example is the transformation of the former People's Republic Square into Liberty Square in Budapest. Hungary also created the Memento Park, an outdoor museum where many of the old communist statues are displayed, providing a historical context without glorifying the regime. Despite the ban, the use of these symbols is still contentious. In 2008, the European Court of Human Rights ruled against Hungary's outright ban on the red star, calling it a violation of free speech. However, Hungary maintains that the law is necessary to prevent the resurgence of totalitarian ideologies. The country continues to debate its past, with many Hungarians viewing the ban as a way to preserve their hard-won freedom. Number 7. Lithuania. Lithuania, one of the Baltic states that suffered under Soviet occupation, passed a law in 2008 banning the public display of both communist and Nazi symbols. This includes the hammer and sickle, Soviet flags, and images of leaders like Lenin or Stalin. Lithuania's experience under Soviet rule was particularly harsh, with 350,000 of its citizens deported to labor camps, imprisoned, or executed during the occupation. To preserve its independence and democratic values, Lithuania has removed many Soviet-era monuments and renamed streets to erase the legacy of communism. In 2015, the country even banned the use of Soviet and Nazi symbols during public gatherings, further tightening its laws. This ban reflects Lithuania's strong commitment to distancing itself from its Soviet past and aligning with Western Europe. Violating the law can result in fines or imprisonment, although the rules have sparked debates about free speech and historical memory. For many Lithuanians, the ban is a necessary step toward healing the wounds of their Soviet occupation. Number 6. Latvia. Latvia's ban on communist symbols came into effect in 2013 as part of its broader effort to break away from its Soviet past. The law bans the public display of the hammer and sickle, Soviet flags, and even certain songs associated with the Soviet Union. Latvia, like its Baltic neighbors, experienced decades of Soviet occupation, during which tens of thousands of Latvians were deported to Siberia or imprisoned. To prevent the glorification of this oppressive period, Latvia has taken significant steps to erase communist symbols from public life. The government has also restricted public events that could be seen as promoting Soviet ideology. In 2020, Latvia continued its decommunization efforts by removing Soviet monuments, including the controversial Victory Monument in Riga, which sparked protests from the country's Russian-speaking minority. While some critics argue that the ban limits free expression, many Latvians see it as essential for maintaining national dignity and preventing the resurgence of totalitarian ideologies. Number 5. Estonia. Estonia, another Baltic state that was under Soviet control, banned communist symbols after gaining independence in 1991. The display of the hammer and sickle, the red star, and other Soviet symbols is strictly prohibited. Estonia's ban is part of its broader efforts to move away from the Soviet past and build a strong national identity. The country also took steps to remove Soviet-era statues and monuments, including the controversial Bronze Soldier Monument, which led to riots in 2007 when it was relocated from central Tallinn. Estonia's government sees these symbols as reminders of the brutal Soviet occupation, during which tens of thousands of Estonians were deported to Siberia or sent to labor camps. While some argue the ban suppresses free speech, Estonians overwhelmingly support the removal of symbols linked to their country's oppression. Violators can face fines or imprisonment, and the law is strictly enforced to prevent any resurgence of Soviet nostalgia. Number 4. Moldova. Moldova, which was part of the Soviet Union until its independence in 1991, passed a law in 2012 banning the use of communist symbols in political campaigns. This includes the hammer and sickle, which was previously used by Moldova's Communist Party as its emblem. The ban was part of Moldova's effort to distance itself from its Soviet past and reduce the influence of communist ideologies. However, the law sparked controversy and was partially lifted in 2013 after the Constitutional Court ruled that banning symbols used by a registered political party was unconstitutional. Despite this, Moldova continues to grapple with its Soviet legacy, and many Moldovans remain divided on the issue. The country has removed several Soviet monuments, but tensions persist between those who want to preserve the past and those who wish to fully embrace Western democratic values. Number 3. Georgia. In 2011, Georgia implemented a strict ban on communist symbols as part of its Law on Freedom Charter, which aimed to remove remnants of Soviet rule from the country. The ban includes the hammer and sickle, portraits of Soviet leaders like Stalin, and other Soviet-era emblems. Georgia was under Soviet control for much of the 20th century, and many Georgians view these symbols as painful reminders of the repression they experienced during that time. The government has removed statues of Stalin, who was born in Georgia, and other Soviet leaders, renaming streets and squares to erase the legacy of communism. This ban is part of Georgia's broader effort to align itself with Western Europe and distance itself from Russia's influence. Violating the law can lead to fines, and the country's leaders have been firm in enforcing the ban, despite some opposition from older generations who still hold nostalgic views of the Soviet era. Number 2. Indonesia. Indonesia's relationship with communism is deeply tied to the violent anti-communist purges of the mid-1960s, during which an estimated 500,000 to 1 million people were killed. The country has strict laws banning communist symbols and ideologies, including the hammer and sickle, which are seen as promoting the ideas of the now outlawed Indonesian Communist Party, PKI. Public discussion or display of communist symbols is illegal, and violations can lead to imprisonment. Indonesia's history with communism remains a sensitive topic, and any perceived resurgence of communist ideas is met with strong opposition. Even in modern times, authorities have been known to crack down on individuals wearing T-shirts or displaying imagery associated with communism. The ban is part of Indonesia's effort to maintain political stability and prevent the re-emergence of ideologies that could lead to further conflict. Number 1. Germany. Germany's ban on communist symbols comes as part of its broader legal restrictions against totalitarian symbols, including those from both the Nazi and communist regimes. The display of the hammer and sickle, Soviet flags, and other symbols associated with East Germany's Socialist Unity Party, SED, is prohibited. Germany, particularly in its eastern regions, experienced decades of communist rule during the Cold War, and many view these symbols as reminders of state oppression, censorship, and lack of personal freedom. While West Germany embraced democracy after World War II, East Germany remained a communist state until reunification in 1990. The ban on communist symbols is meant to ensure that Germany remains a free and democratic society, while also acknowledging the suffering of those who lived under communist rule. Violating the law can result in fines or imprisonment, and the country takes this ban seriously to prevent the resurgence of harmful ideologies.